Hi there, welcome to Books and Beads. I'm Becky. Today we're talking about my May reading wrap-up. All thoughts go out my head. I read 8 books this month and I'm making beaded bookmarks for every book I'm reading this year. So I'm going to take you through all of those books I've read, show you the bookmarks I made for them, and we'll talk about some of my June hopefuls at the end. So let's dive in. First book I read this month is Flawless by Elsie Silver, and I absolutely loved this one. This book follows Rhett, a professional bull rider who makes a pretty big PR mistake. So his PR firm sends Summer to help him out with his PR, kind of follow him around and make sure he doesn't mess up again. And Rhett's not happy about this. He's not happy that Summer's following him around, but they can't fight their mutual attraction. So that is... Ooh, I like it. I loved the romance in this book and the banter between Summer and Rhett. It was so good. It made me feel giddy. I want a movie of it. I can just picture all of the scenes in this book. The cowboy hat, if you know, you know. It was just so good. I also really enjoyed reading about Summer's journey as a recovering people pleaser. I am a people pleaser myself, so it was really nice to see her work through some of her people-pleasing tendencies in the book. I found myself getting emotional at all the right parts, and there's even a little bit of a little reveal or twist, I guess, that was fun to read. I wasn't expecting too much beyond the romance, so I always love when there's a little something extra added. Oh my gosh, I loved this book. It was so delightful. I really enjoyed it. So that was Flawless. Highly recommend if you're in to cowboy romance series. There's more in this series and I plan on reading more. It was just so delightful. Next, I listened to The Silent Patient by Micahelides. This was an audiobook. So this book is about a woman who seemingly shoots her husband and then tries to kill herself. And after all of that happens, she takes a vow of silence and refuses to speak to anyone. So she is put into this mental facility, this psychiatric facility, and you get POV, like flashback POVs from her, and then you get present day POVs from the psychoanalyst who is helping her, Theo. This book was really dark and introspective. It ruminates a lot on the psychology, the inner workings of the characters' minds, and other characters' interpretations of other characters' minds. So Theo's constantly analyzing what our main character must be thinking. I enjoyed the writing, and I thought the narrator was really good. He does a really good job at accents. He uses a British accent mostly because it takes place in London, but he has to switch between an American accent. I think he does like a Russian or Ukrainian accent at one point. It was really good. And they do have a female narrator for Alicia's parts too. This was an enjoyable read. This was more of a suspense thriller read, so it did have some pretty good twists. It didn't fully capture my attention. Like, I was into it, but I wasn't as hooked as I might be on other suspense or thriller books. So this is a good one if you want something a little more introspective and a little more dark, I think. I think it's worth checking out because the story does take some interesting turns. And continuing on my suspense thriller audiobook kick, I listened to Never Lie by Freida McFadden. This book follows Trisha and Ethan. They're going out to take a look at a house they want to buy, and they get stuck there during a snowstorm. The home belonged to a famous psychiatrist who disappeared and is believed to have been murdered by her boyfriend. So while they're stuck there, Trisha uncovers secrets throughout the house. This one felt very Nancy Drew. There's hidden passages, there's secret clues and recordings of some of the psychologist sessions that Trisha listens to. It's really interesting. Freida McFadden is known for always putting in like crazy, ridiculous twists, and I always try and guess them. And for this one, I thought I knew for sure what one of the twists was going to be. I was like, oh, this is it. I'm sure of it. All the clues lead to it. And I was wrong again, but that's Freida. She just comes out of nowhere with these crazy twists. Now, Freida like splits book lovers up pretty divisively. You either love Freida or you can't stand her. I think she's a good time, especially the audiobooks. I really love them, especially if they're narrated by Leslie Howard. I think she does such a good job of narrating the Freida McFadden books and any audiobooks. I listened to The Second Husband that was narrated by her as well, and I thought she did a good job there. So I will listen to anything that Leslie Howard is narrating. But I think they're great because they're easy to digest and they keep you guessing, and you'll never see the twists coming because they're so out of left field. And I think it's fun. To me, it's like the equivalent of reality TV. Like, is it the height of literature? No. Are you gonna have a good time? Yes. I liked the creepy mansion feel of this one and exploring secrets in a house. That one was fun. Next, I read Leigh Bardugo's The Familiar. I got invited to join a book club this month with some friends from Book Talk, and this was the book club pick. So this book follows Lucia, and this takes place during the time of the Spanish Inquisition. Lucia is a servant girl who can perform magic, and the family she serves finds this out and then tries to use her to gain favor at court. She's entered into a tournament to become like the king's champion of magic, or miracles as they're called sometimes in this book. And so she is put under the tutelage of Sant'Angelo. He's going to teach her how to use her magic to the fullest. He is immortal. This book does have a fascinating story, but I'm not gonna lie, it is slow at the beginning. It took me quite a while to get into this one, but the end I think is worth it. I thought the end was beautiful and I got really into it at the end. And so what I was thinking as I was reading this is I thought it would have been great if the book starts with the action at the end and then uses flashbacks to kind of fill in the gaps that the reader is missing, and then work its way back up to present day and where we get the climax and all of that. I thought that may have hooked me a little faster. It took a lot for me to focus and pay attention to what I was reading and not to let my mind wander while I was reading this. So it is a little slow, and admittedly some people in the book club did not finish it because it was slow. The love story in this one threw me off at first. I was not expecting it, but I did end up enjoying it. I really liked the historical setting. You could tell that Leigh Bardugo did some really good research on this setting and time period, and I really liked the magic system because it's just instantly a part of the world. It's not explained in too much detail. It's just Lucia can do these things. It's a part of her life. It's a part of this world. Here you go. So I really liked that. It was quite charming. So if you like historical details and if you like a little bit of fantasy mixed in with your historical fiction, you should check this one out, and I do think the ending was really lovely. Okay, back on my Freida McFadden train, I listened to Ward D, another audiobook, also narrated by Leslie Howard, my fave. Ward D is about a girl in med school who has to spend a shift on this mental patient ward in order to get school credit. And it's a very high security ward, so she's kind of locked in there all night because some of these patients are dangerous. And it turns out her childhood best friend is on this ward, along with other really interesting characters. She's also suffering with some mental issues of her own, and it's all compounded when she has to stay the night here with all of this baggage and anxiety about staying there. So that adds to the suspense as well. I found myself not as interested in the events leading up to the climax in this one. So it's not my favorite Freida McFadden, but still interesting, still good twists at the end. It is on the more ridiculous, silly side. I mean, a lot of the Freida McFadden books are ridiculous, but this one definitely had some sillier moments. I was still entertained, even if it wasn't my favorite, but if you're just getting into Freida McFadden, I maybe wouldn't start with this one. Then I read Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. This was such an epic fantasy book. I loved it. This is the first book in a trilogy of books, and you start off by meeting Tisana. Tisana has been sold into slavery, and she's trying to buy her freedom. And a horrible accident occurs while she's trying to do this, so she has to flee. She joins this order who she thinks can help not only keep her free, but save more of her people. And she does have powers. And this order is an order of magic wielders that can help her refine and hone her powers. So she becomes the student or apprentice of Max, who is tasked to help her with her powers. So there's some slow burn romance in this one. There's tons of fantasy elements. There's battles, epic weapons. It had everything I loved. It reminded me a little bit of Throne of Glass. And it also, the main character, Tisana, kind of reminds me of Daenerys from Game of Thrones. It just kept my interest from the beginning. I could not put it down. It was so good. And interesting side note about this one, I tried to listen to the audiobook a couple months earlier and just gave up on it. I'm really picky with audiobooks because if the narrator doesn't have an interesting enough voice, if they just stay pretty monotone the whole time, I will just tune them out. And that's why I like Leslie Howard so much. She gives a lot of inflection to her voice. She puts some character into it, especially when she's doing voices or, reading dialogue. So I really appreciate Leslie Howard for that reason. She doesn't just get monotone. She keeps it interesting. So I couldn't get through the audiobook for this one, but I absolutely loved reading the book for this one. So I can't wait to read the next book in this series. I will definitely be continuing this one. And the cover is just so beautiful. I love it all. So if you are an epic fantasy lover, if you loved Throne of Glass, if Daenerys is one of your most favorite or intriguing characters, I think you will love this book. Then I read One for My Enemy by Olivia Blak. I read this one because Carrie Can Read read it, recommended it. She said she loved it. And I really love her suggestions and recommendations. So I picked that one up and it was really cool. It's a Romeo and Juliet-esque story about feuding witch families in New York City. I absolutely love that. It's such a unique take and the romance in this book is so good. It takes a lot of unexpected turns. I didn't really know much about it other than it was kind of Romeo and Juliet, crime family type story. And I was just so blown away by some of the story turns. It was a really cool ride. The characters are wonderful. They felt super real and super fleshed out. There's a lot of switching POVs throughout the story and it keeps it moving, keeps it fast paced. There were some parts where I got a little bit confused, but overall, I really liked it. I thought the writing style was beautiful. There were definitely passages I was saving to write in my reading journal because I loved the quotes. It was just a great time. I thought the ending was beautiful. Yes, this is a great one, especially if you like Romeo and Juliet, if you're a fantasy, romantasy lover. If you like witches, I think you will like this one a lot. Then I finished up the month with Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is a charming Regency novel with fae and magic involved. It is so delightful, and I think I'm finding a new genre that I'm obsessed with, magical Regency. This was super charming, and I read The Honey Witch earlier this year. I absolutely loved that, and that's the same kind of vibe, just Regency setting with magic thrown in. I'm absolutely loving that. I want to read more in this very specific genre. So those are the books I've read this month, and I have some hopefuls for next month. I like to give myself some hopefuls at the start of the month just to get me going, get me inspired. So I'm going to share what I want to read next month with you right now. So definitely want to continue some series that I started this month. I picked up Children of Fallen Gods, which is the second book after Daughter of No Worlds. So I'll definitely be giving this one a go this month. And continuing after reading Flawless, I'm going to read Heartless, the second book in the Chestnut Springs series. And this one follows a different set of characters than Flawless. So that's something that I like about this series too, is they're kind of standalone, but they all relate to each other. All the characters know each other. So super excited to continue with that series. There are a few books that I wanted to read last month that I didn't get to, so I'm going to add them to the list of hopefuls for June, and one of those is Upon a Frosted Star. This is by M.A. Kuzniar. This is a Swan Princess Swan Lake retelling. I'm on a quest to read all the Swan Lake retellings I can find. I've read I think about 3 so far, and this one is Swan Lake mixed with The Great Gatsby, so I'm so excited to read this one too. I would like to read Neferura this month because I love an ancient Egyptian story. Historical fiction too is another favorite genre, so I think this will be a great read, and we love a strong female character. And then I'm having serious FOMO seeing everyone read Powerless, so this is on my list to read. I've heard lots of good things. I've heard some mixed reviews too. I know this is more YA, young adult, and so not everybody likes that, but I don't mind it, so I'm really excited to read this one. And I heard like the romantic tension in this one is really good. And this is another hopeful for the month, A Kiss of Iron by Claire Sager. This is one of my best friend's favorite books, so got to try it. I also need to work on some of my NetGalley ARC books to keep my feedback ratio in good standing. So I would like to read Lucy Undying this month. I'm super excited for that one. It's like a Dracula retelling from Lucy's perspective. And another one that I just picked up is Honey, which is about a pop star rising to fame in the early 2000s. So think like Britney Spears at her peak. And I was the perfect age for early 2000s pop stars. I was middle school, high school age at that time. So I think that'll be a really fun read as well. So that is my May reading wrap up and my June hopefuls. Let me know, what books did you read this past month? What are you looking forward to read in June? I would love to hear it. Make sure to leave a like and a comment. And as always, make sure to subscribe, stick around. Let's be book besties. Let's talk about books. I'll see you for the next one. Bye.